Are you brave enough to face your past? Noah stared at his computer screen, the email glowing ominously in the darkness of his apartment. The room was silent, save for the faint hum of the computer. The subject line read simply, 13 Willow Creek. It was a name that seemed to echo in his mind. He didn't recognize the sender. The email address was a jumble of letters and numbers completely unfamiliar. His heart pounded in his chest. 13 Willow Creek. The name alone was enough to make his pulse quicken. The address sent a chill down his spine as if a cold wind had swept through the room, stirring something deep within his memory. It was a place he had tried to forget, but it seemed the past had other plans. He clicked the email open, his hand trembling slightly. It contained a single sentence. You can't escape the past. Noah shivered. The words seemed to leap off the screen, wrapping around his mind like a vice. The words felt like a threat, a dark promise that the past was not done with him yet, a warning from a place he couldn't quite remember. It was as if a fog had settled over his memories, obscuring the details. He tried to shake off the feeling of dread, taking deep breaths to calm his racing heart, but it clung to him like a shroud. The unease was palpable, a heavy weight pressing down on him. What was it about that address? Why did it stir such fear within him? Why did it fill him with such unease? He closed his laptop, hoping to shut out the thoughts that plagued him, but the address remained burned into his mind. 13 Willow Creek. He knew that house. It was a place of nightmares, a place he had vowed never to return to. He had to go back to 13 Willow Creek. There was no escaping it. The past had caught up with him, and now he had to face it. What's something people don't know about forgotten memories? He was a child again, trapped in a nightmare. The fire, the smoke, the screams, and Isla, his little sister. Her hand slipping from his grasp as the flames roared around them. He remembered the unbearable heat, the choking smoke, the feeling of utter terror. He remembered his parents, their faces contorted in horror as they tried desperately to reach them. And then nothing. A blankness where the most painful memories should have been. Noah had blocked out the details of that night, but the raw emotions remained. Fear, guilt, and an overwhelming sense of loss. He had never returned to Willow Creek. Not after the fire. You need to hear this if you're a parent. Noah drove through the night, the headlights of his car cutting through the darkness. The further he drove, the more oppressive the silence became. The only sound was the low hum of the engine and the beating of his own heart. He tried to distract himself, to focus on the road ahead, but the memories kept intruding. He saw Isla's face, her bright smile, her infectious laughter. He remembered the day she was born, the joy he had felt when he held her in his arms for the first time. And then he saw her again, trapped in the burning house, her eyes wide with terror. He had to know the truth. He had to find out what really happened that night. You need to hear this if you're a fan of haunted tales. As he crested the final hill and Willow Creek came into view, Noah's breath caught in his throat. The town was a shadow of its former self, most of the buildings abandoned and decaying. And then he saw it, at the end of a long, overgrown driveway. 13 Willow Creek. The house stood on a hill overlooking the town, a dark and imposing silhouette against the twilight sky. It looked even more sinister than he remembered, the windows boarded up, the paint peeling. Noah parked his car at the foot of the driveway and stepped out, his heart pounding in his chest. He took a deep breath and started up the driveway, each step filled with a growing sense of dread. He couldn't shake the feeling that he was walking into a nightmare. This is going to blow your mind. The front door creaked open as if inviting him in. The sound was almost welcoming, yet it sent a shiver down his spine. It was as if the house itself was alive, beckoning him to uncover its secrets. The air inside was stale and cold, thick with dust and the musty odor of decay. It felt as though time had stood still within these walls, preserving the memories of a long-forgotten past. The misty air added an eerie quality, making it hard to see clearly. Cobwebs hung from every corner, and the only light came from the slivers of moonlight that pierced through the cracks in the boarded-up windows. The moonlight cast ghostly shadows on the walls, creating an unsettling atmosphere that made Noah's heart race. Noah stepped inside, his footsteps echoing in the silence. Each step seemed to amplify the emptiness of the house, making him acutely aware of his solitude. The echoing sound was almost rhythmic, like a heartbeat, reminding him of the life that once thrived here. The house felt empty, yet he couldn't shake the feeling that he was being watched. It was as if unseen eyes were following his every move, scrutinizing him. The sensation was unnerving, making him glance over his shoulder repeatedly. He could sense a presence lurking just beyond his vision, something cold and unseen. It was a feeling that gnawed at his nerves, making the hairs on the back of his neck stand on end. The presence was intangible, yet undeniably real. He called out, his voice echoing in the emptiness, but there was no reply. The silence that followed was deafening, amplifying his sense of isolation. It was as if the house itself was swallowing his words, refusing to give any answers. He moved deeper into the house, his hand trailing along the dusty furniture. The dust clung to his fingers, a tangible reminder of the years of neglect. Each piece of furniture seemed to tell a story, whispering secrets of the past. Each room was a decaying reflection of its former glory, the wallpaper peeling, the floorboards creaking underfoot. The once grand rooms now stood as hollow shells, echoing the grandeur that had long since faded. The creaking floorboards seemed to protest his intrusion. As he reached the foot of the grand staircase, he heard it, a soft whisper, barely audible above the sound of his own breathing. The whisper was faint, almost like a sigh, but it was enough to make him freeze in his tracks. It was a sound that seemed to come from nowhere and everywhere at once, filling him with a sense of dread and curiosity. He looked up the staircase, his eyes straining to see in the dim light. For a moment he thought he saw a shadowy figure at the top of the stairs, but when he blinked, it was gone. The fleeting glimpse left him questioning his own senses, wondering if the house was playing tricks on him. With a deep breath, he took a cautious step up the staircase. Each step creaked loudly, echoing through the empty house. The sound was almost too loud, as if the house was warning him to turn back. But he couldn't stop now. He had to know what lay at the top. As he reached the top of the staircase, he found himself facing a dark hallway. The air was even colder here, and the sense of a lurking presence was stronger than ever. He hesitated for a moment, gathering his courage before stepping into the unknown. I don't think people understand the power of memories. Noah? The voice seemed to come from everywhere at once, echoing through the empty house. It was faint, ethereal, like a memory struggling to surface. Noah's blood ran cold. He knew that voice. He hadn't heard it in years, but he would recognize it anywhere. It was Isla's voice. "Isla!" he called out, his voice trembling. He strained to listen, his heart pounding in his chest. The whisper came again, closer this time, coming from the top of the stairs. "Noah, help me!" He took a step toward the stairs, then another. The air grew colder, the shadows deeper. "Are you terrified to face the ghosts of your past?" Noah's heart leapt into his throat. He felt a cold sweat break out on his forehead, his pulse racing as if he had just run a marathon. The room seemed to close in around him, the air thick with an unspoken dread. He knew that figure, even though it was little more than a shadow. The familiarity of it sent shivers down his spine, a haunting reminder of a past he thought he had left behind. It was Isla, her pale face shimmering in the darkness, her eyes wide and pleading. The sight of her was both a comfort and a terror, a ghostly apparition that defied the very laws of nature. She looked just as he remembered her, except for the faint ethereal glow that surrounded her. It was as if she was caught between two worlds, a spectral being that had somehow crossed the boundary between life and death. "Isla," he whispered, his voice hoarse with disbelief and terror. The name felt foreign on his lips, a relic from a time he had tried so hard to forget. The figure turned towards him, her expression a mixture of sadness and longing. It was a look that pierced through his soul, stirring memories he had buried deep within. "Noah, it's me," she whispered back. Her voice was soft, almost melodic, yet it carried the weight of 1,000 unspoken words. "I've been waiting for you." The words hung in the air, heavy with meaning. It was as if time itself had paused, allowing this moment to stretch into eternity. Noah stood frozen to the spot, his mind reeling. He felt as if he was trapped in a nightmare, unable to wake up. He couldn't believe his eyes. It couldn't be. Isla was dead. The reality of it hit him like a tidal wave, crashing over him with relentless force. He had seen her die in the fire. The memory was seared into his mind, a horrific scene that played out in slow motion every time he closed his eyes. And yet here she was, standing before him as real as day, if a little translucent. It was a paradox that his mind struggled to comprehend, a clash between reality and the supernatural. But how? He stammered, his voice barely a whisper. The question hung in the air, unanswered, as the ghostly figure of Isla continued to gaze at him with those haunting, pleading eyes. "I think I messed up," Noah echoed, his mind racing. "Who?" Isla's form flickered again, her image becoming more and more faint. "He's coming," she whispered, her voice filled with urgency. "You have to leave. He doesn't want you here." "Who doesn't want me here?" Noah demanded, taking a step towards her. "Who trapped you here, Isla?" But it was too late. Isla's form dissolved into the shadows, her voice fading into a mournful whisper. "Beware the flames, Noah," she whispered. "Beware the flames." And then she was gone. The temperature in the house plummeted, the air growing heavy and oppressive. "Are you terrified to face the truth?" The flames danced and swirled, taking on monstrous shapes, their heat licking at his skin. He could hear laughter echoing through the house, a cold, cruel laughter that chilled him to the bone. And then, from the heart of the inferno, a figure emerged. It was a man, tall and skeletal, his features obscured by the flames. His eyes glowed with an unnatural light, a malevolent fire that seemed to burn right through Noah. "You cannot escape your destiny," the figure boomed, his voice a deep, resonating growl. "You belong to me now." Noah backed away, fear clutching at his throat. "Who are you?" he choked out. The figure laughed, a chilling sound that echoed through the house. "This is going to blow your mind." Noah closed his eyes, bracing himself for the end, but the pain never came. He opened his eyes to see Isla standing between him and the fiery figure, her arms outstretched, her form blazing with an ethereal light. "Leave him alone," she screamed, her voice filled with a power he had never heard before. "He's mine!" The fiery figure recoiled as if burned, his eyes widening in rage and surprise. "You dare defy me," he roared. "You are nothing but a shadow, a wisp of smoke." "And yet I am all that stands between you and him," Isla retorted, her voice ringing with determination. She turned to Noah, her expression softening. "Don't be afraid, Noah," she whispered. "I'll never let him hurt you." Exposing the hidden secrets in the house on the hill, Noah's breath came in ragged gasps as the fiery figure dissipated, leaving a smoky trail in its wake. Isla's light dimmed and she turned to him, her eyes filled with both sorrow and resolve. Pause 2S. "Noah," she began, her voice trembling yet firm, "there's something you need to see, something that will explain everything." Pause 2S. The walls of the room seemed to shimmer and shift, revealing a hidden staircase leading down into the bowels of the house. Noah, guided by Isla's ethereal presence, descended the creaking steps, each one echoing with the weight of forgotten memories. Pause 2S. At the bottom, they found a dusty, dimly lit room filled with old photographs, journals, and relics of a time long past. Noah picked up a tattered journal, its pages brittle with age. As he read, the truth unfolded before him. Pause 2S. "This house," Isla whispered, "was once a place of love and happiness, but it was also a place of unspeakable tragedy. Your family, Noah, they were bound to this place by a curse that has haunted us for generations." Pause 2S. Noah's eyes widened as he saw a photograph of a woman who looked exactly like Isla, standing next to a man who bore an uncanny resemblance to himself. The realization hit him like a tidal wave. Pause 2S. "We are the reincarnations of our ancestors," Isla continued, "destined to relive their fate unless we break the cycle." Pause 2S. Noah's hands trembled as he closed the journal. "How do we break it?" he asked, his voice a mere whisper. Pause 2S. Isla's form glowed brighter, her resolve unwavering. "By confronting the past and forgiving ourselves," she said, "by letting go of the pain and embracing the love that once was." Pause 2S. As the words settled in, the room began to glow with a warm, golden light, and Noah felt a sense of peace wash over him. The hidden secrets of the house had been unveiled, and with them, the path to their salvation. Pause 2S. Together, Noah said, reaching out to Isla, we will break the curse. Pause 2S. Isla took his hand, her touch warm and reassuring. Together, she echoed, we will be free. Pause 2S. And as they stood there, hand in hand, the house on the hill finally began to heal, its dark past giving way to a brighter future. Pause 2S. The air grew colder as the truth came to light. Are you brave enough to confront the unknown? As Noah and Isla ascended from the hidden room, the house seemed to pulse with a newfound energy. The walls, once cold and foreboding, now whispered of hope and redemption. Pause 2S. But the air grew heavy as they reached the main hall, and a chilling presence enveloped them. Pause 2S. A ghostly figure materialized before them, its eyes burning with centuries of anguish. It was the spirit of the ancestor who had cast the curse, chained to the house by his own torment. Pause 2S. You dare to defy me? The spirit roared, its voice echoing through the halls. Pause 2S. Noah stepped forward, his heart pounding but his resolve unwavering. We are here to end this, he declared, his voice steady, to free you and ourselves from this endless cycle of pain. Pause 2S. The spirit's form flickered, its rage momentarily giving way to sorrow. You cannot understand the suffering I endured, it whispered, its voice tinged with regret. Pause 2S. Isla moved to stand beside Noah, her light shining brighter than ever. We do understand, she said softly. We have felt it too. But holding on to this pain only perpetuates the curse. It's time to let go. Pause 2S. The spirit hesitated, its form wavering. Noah reached out, offering his hand. Join us, he urged. Let us heal together. Pause 2S. For a moment, the house was silent. Then slowly, the spirit extended its own hand, touching Noah's. A surge of energy coursed through the room, and the spirit's chains began to dissolve. Pause 2S. As the ghostly figure faded, a sense of calm settled over the house. The oppressive darkness lifted, replaced by a warm, golden light. Pause 2S. Noah and Isla stood together, their hands still joined. It's over, Noah said, his voice filled with relief. The curse is broken. Pause 2S. Isla smiled, her eyes shimmering with tears of joy. We are free, she whispered. Pause 2S. And as they embraced, the house on the hill, once a place of sorrow and despair, was finally at peace. The haunting had ended and a new chapter had begun. Pause 2S. I will never look at an old house the same way after learning this. The morning sun cast a gentle glow over the house on the hill, its once ominous silhouette now softened by the light of a new day. Pause 2S. Noah and Isla stood outside, gazing at the place where their journey had begun and ended. Pause 2S. The air was crisp, filled with the scent of fresh beginnings and the promise of a brighter future. Pause 2S. Noah took a deep breath, feeling the weight of the past lift from his shoulders. It's hard to believe it's over, he said, his voice tinged with wonder. Everything we've been through, it feels like a lifetime ago. Pause 2S. Isla nodded, her eyes reflecting the same sense of awe. We've faced our fears, confronted the past, and found our strength, she said softly. This experience has changed us in ways we never could have imagined. Pause 2S. They walked slowly down the path, leaving the house behind. As they did, Noah's thoughts turned inward, reflecting on the journey that had brought them here. Pause 2S. There was a time when I felt lost, trapped by the shadows of my own mind, he mused. But now I see that those shadows were just a part of the story. They led us to this moment, to this place of healing and renewal. Pause 2S. Isla squeezed his hand, her touch a comforting reminder of their shared bond. We've learned that even in the darkest times there is always a spark of light, she said, and that light can guide us through anything. Pause 2S. As they reached the bottom of the hill, Noah turned to Isla, his heart full of gratitude. Thank you, he said, his voice filled with emotion, for standing by me, for believing in us. I couldn't have done this without you. Pause 2S. Isla smiled, her eyes shining with tears. We did this together, she replied, and together we will continue to face whatever comes our way. Pause 2S. They embraced, their hearts beating in unison, a testament to the strength and resilience they had discovered within themselves. Pause 2S. As they walked into the future, hand in hand, they knew that the house on the hill would always be a part of their story, but it was no longer a place of fear and sorrow. Pause 2S. It was a symbol of their courage, their love, and the endless possibilities that lay ahead. Pause 2S. And as the sun rose higher in the sky, casting its golden light over the world, Noah and Isla found peace in the knowledge that they were finally free. Pause 2S. Free to live, to love, and to embrace the beauty of each new day. Pause 2S.